welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're venturing into maybe a spookier side of higher education, haunted U.S. universities.
Definitely spooky.
And you, our listener, you've sent in a really fascinating mix of sources, everything from firsthand accounts, ghost stories, to, well, actual rankings of universities based on paranormal stuff.
Yeah, it seems like you want the quick but also thorough rundown on this whole topic.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is really to explore these legends, find some specific haunting stories, and, get a feel for how common these tales actually are on college campuses.
It's interesting, isn't it, how the classic image of an old university campus.
Gothic spires, ivy-covered walls.
Right, it just screams haunted house almost.
Yeah.
Those old buildings, the quiet quads.
Yeah.
It feels like the perfect setting.
The scene's already set.
Yeah.
And it's apparently more than just atmosphere. One of the articles you sent from College Rover, it had this survey.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And it said something like 13% of students believe their campus is haunted.
And even more personally, 12% think their dorm is haunted.
Okay, wait. 13% and 12%? That's actually quite a few students feeling something weird is going on.
It really is. It takes it beyond just, campfire stories. And these experiences seem to have a real impact, too.
How so?
Well, that same survey found that over a third, more than 1 in 3 of students who had these paranormal encounters, they had trouble concentrating.
Wow, okay.
And 22% actually went looking for help because of it. So these aren't just fleeting moments for some people.
No, that sounds like it's genuinely affecting their college life, maybe even their grades.
Potentially, yeah.
All right, so to really dig into this, let's look at some specific universities you highlighted. Fordham University came up as #1 most haunted, according to that College Rover ranking.
Well, it was founded way back in 1841.
Plenty of time for ghosts to move in.
Exactly. History definitely helps build those legends. The sources mention a few hotspots: Keating Hall, Queen's Court, Martyrs Court.
But Finley Hall seemed to be the big one.
Yeah. Finley Hall has this really intense reputation, probably because it used to be the medical school.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. The whole history of the building feeds into it.
Right. And here's where it gets really specific and kind of creepy. Both articles mention Finley Hall.
Yeah.
Apparently, some student rooms still have these old loft spaces. Observers used to watch cadaver dissections from up there.
Oh, lovely. So current students are living with observation decks for ghosts.
Kind of. And residents report seeing figures, sometimes described as being in lab coats, just standing up there watching them.
Okay, nope. That's incredibly unsettling.
And it gets worse. Some students report feeling like someone's touching them, like putting a toe tag on them, or even grabbing their neck. And one source mentioned a security guard who heard all sorts of noises in the basement, furniture moving, doors slamming.
And he quit.
He quit. Couldn't handle it.
I mean, I can't blame him. That's terrifying.
And Fordham's got more. There's this rumor about a Jesuit graveyard under Collins Hall.
Oh, great.
And another piece mentions seeing a shadowy monk figure near the old campus church. Fordham seems pretty packed.
Definitely sounds like a paranormal hotspot. Okay, so who's next on the list?
Number 2 on the College Rover list was CUNY City College. But its ranking is interesting.
How so?
It wasn't so much about ghosts on campus, but more about the surroundings. Lots of cemeteries and, spiritual shops nearby.
Huh. So maybe the vibe of the neighborhood influences the campus perception.
That seems to be the idea. A bit different. Then number 3 was the University of Denver.
And their stories.
More specific figures. Apparently there are 2 distinct female ghosts reported in different buildings, Marjorie Reed Hall and the Mary Reed Building.
Makes you wonder who they were, what happened there.
Exactly. What ties them to those specific spots?
Okay, moving beyond the top 3. Ohio University came up a lot. They seem to have some really chilling legends.
Oh, Ohio University is a big one in the haunting world. Wilson Hall, room 428 specifically.
Right, I remember reading about that one. What is the story again?
Both articles mention this legend of a student who supposedly died there, back in the day, trying astral projection.
Astral projection.
Oh.
Like their spirit leaving their body.
Yeah, that's the idea. And apparently the paranormal activity afterwards was so bad
that they sealed the room.
They reportedly sealed it off completely. Permanently.
Wow. That tells you something must have been going on, or at least strongly believed to be.
Definitely a strong reaction. And then there's the Ridges.
The old Athens lunatic asylum, right? Connected to the university.
Yes. And its history alone is unsettling. Overcrowding, poor treatment.
And that story about Margaret Schilling.
That one is particularly haunting. A patient who went missing found weeks later in an abandoned ward.
And the stain.
The stain her body is supposedly left on the floor. Reports say it just cannot be removed no matter how much they clean.
That's chilling. Gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
And people report other things there too. Whispers, shadows, seeing faces in windows. Plus, there's the cemetery nearby.
With thousands unmarked graves.
Over 1,900. Mostly unclaimed patients. It just adds to this really heavy, somber feeling.
You can almost feel the history weighing on the place.
And some even claim to see the ghost of Dr. Kirkbride, the asylum's designer, wandering around. One article mentions students near the ridges reporting cold touches or bad dreams.
Yeah, sounds like a place with a definite atmosphere.
For sure.
Okay, let's jump to Georgetown. Obviously, there's the connection to The Exorcist.
Right, that immediately puts it on the spooky map. But there's also this really persistent urban legend about Healy Hall.
The sealed floor.
Exactly. The story goes that a whole floor is sealed off. Why? Well, the rumors vary.
Like what?
Maybe a student messing with occult stuff opened a portal. Or a priest was murdered. Or maybe a botched exorcism.
A portal. Seriously.
That's one version. The fact that it's supposedly sealed just fuels the speculation, you know.
Totally. And didn't one article mention scratches on a door?
Yeah. Unexplained scratches, possibly linked to an exorcism attempt. Plus stories about ghosts in the tunnels under the campus. Georgetown's got layers.
It really does.
Yeah.
What about Kenyon College? Their stories seem linked to some pretty tragic events.
Very much so. The big one is the fire in Old Kenyon dorm back in 1949.
9 students died, right? That's awful.
Just tragic. And one source detailed how, even after they rebuilt the dorm, students reported weird stuff.
Like what kind of stuff?
Unexplained knocks, hearing voices telling them to get out, even seeing apparitions, sometimes just parts of figures, like from the waist up, or just feet.
Oh, that's deeply creepy. Just feet.
Yeah. Really unsettling imagery.
And there was more at Kenyon, wasn't there? Something about an elevator.
Right. In 1979, a student tragically fell down an elevator shaft in Capel's residence. Since then, reports of showers turning on, lights flickering.
Residual energy, maybe?
That's the feeling.
Oh.
And there's this really bizarre incident where security supposedly got calls from 3 different rooms at once. Just a woman screaming on the line.
And when they checked...
the phones were disconnected.
Okay, that's genuinely weird. Hard to explain that one away.
Very. And Kenyon even has a haunted dance studio. Apparently an Air Force cadet drowned in the pool there in the 40s.
So now there are wet footprints.
Wet footprints appearing out of nowhere, lights acting up, sounds of splashing when no one's there. It's quite a collection of stories.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. University of Notre Dame. Their famous ghost seems a bit different.
Yeah, Notre Dame's big one is George Gipp, the legendary football player.
Win one for the Gipper.
That's him.
Yeah.
But maybe don't hang around Washington Hall too late.
Why? Is he still practicing?
Students report hearing a football being kicked, old music playing, and some even claim to have seen his ghost still in uniform.
Huh. It was almost nostalgic.
Yeah.
Less scary, more like a memory.
It does feel different, more like a fond presence. And since Washington Hall was a theater, there are also rumors of other performer ghosts lingering there. Voices, shadows on stage.
Interesting. Now, Smith College had a really unique one. The room trapped in time.
Oh, that one is wild. Really stands out.
Tell me about it.
So there's this specific dorm room where clocks supposedly always stop at 10.15.
Always.
According to the legend. And not just clocks, watches, phones, they stop working in there too.
What? That's bizarre.
Right. Plus, students report seeing strange reflections, catching glimpses of a ghost in old-fashioned clothes. It's like a little time warp.
A pocket dimension on campus? Okay, that's definitely unusual. How about University of Georgia? They had the librarian ghost, right?
Eleanor, yeah. Classic library haunting. The story is she was a lonely librarian in the early 1900s who died in the library.
And now she turned pages.
Turns pages, makes lights flicker, sometimes seen as a figure gliding in the stacks. There are reports of crying sounds from the archives, too.
Sad.
Yeah, and apparently poetry and love story books, supposedly her favorites, get moved around on their own. It feels more sorrowful than scary.
Yeah, less menacing. And Georgia had other spots, too, right? A stairway to nowhere?
Yep, in Joe Brown Hall, linked to a student suicide. Also hauntings reported in Lustrat House, and even in sorority and fraternity houses, like Susie Carather's at Alpha Gamma Delta. UGA seems pretty busy, spectrally speaking.
Seems so. University of Alabama also had a library ghost, didn't they? Amelia Gorgas.
That's right, in Gorgas Library. She was the head librarian.
And what does Amelia supposedly do?
The reports are very sensory. Feeling watched, hearing phantom footsteps, seeing a figure in a window briefly, basement noises, cold spots, documents being moved.
And the smell of roses.
And the faint scent of roses. It's a very detailed haunting.
Makes the library sound lively. Okay, University of Tennessee, near a cemetery.
Highgate Cemetery, yeah. Right near campus. So you get tales filtering over.
Confederate soldiers, a lady in gray.
And something called whispering winds, weird lights, strange noises heard in the nearby dorms. Classic cemetery spillover, maybe.
Definitely sets a spooky mood. What about Penn State?
Penn State has a real mix. There's the story of Frances Atherton watching her husband's grave. Apparently. There's a ghost walk. Weird noises in Schwab Auditorium. The ghost of their old mule mascot, Old Coley.
Wait, a ghost mule?
A ghost reel. And then, more seriously, stories tied to an unsolved murder in the library, including reports of invisible hands trying to choke people.
Okay, mule is quirky, choking is terrifying. Quite the range.
It really is.
University of Montevallo. That one sounded particularly tragic.
Yeah, the story of Condi Cunningham. She died in a dorm fire in 1908.
And people see her on fire.
Reports mention seeing her apparition engulfed in flames or smelling burning when there's no fire. Really intense and sad.
Awful. And there was another ghost there, too. Looking for treasure.
Edmund King, yeah. Supposedly searching for buried money. Adds a bit of local lore.
Wells College seemed really into their ghost stories. They even have an archive.
They do, which suggests it's a big part of their culture. They've got a security guard ghost, haunted rooms in the main building, melted bikes near a mansion.
Melted bikes.
Yeah, weird detail. And a legend about a red door in the main building from when it was used as an infirmary during the flu epidemic. Lots of history baked in.
Definitely. Loyola University in Chicago, formerly Mundelein College.
Their big story is the hanged nun.
On a sealed-off floor.
Supposedly the 14th floor, yeah. Classic creepy tale. Reports of noises, orbs and photos, lights acting up, keeps the legend going.
Huntingdon College had the Red Ladies, right?
2 of them. One linked to their old campus, one named Martha on the current one. Very specific theme.
Montclair State in New Jersey. Possible burial ground.
That's the theory. Which might explain activity in the Hawks Crossings apartments, flickering lights, slamming doors, moving objects, cold spots, phantom laughter.
And someone saw a guy in old clothes.
Yeah, a student reported seeing a man dressed like he was from the 1800s. Adds to the burial ground idea, maybe?
University of Illinois. Swimmer in the old pool.
In the former women's building, now the English building. Died in the pool, maybe suicide, maybe murder. The story's unclear. Reports of doors slamming, lights flickering, murmuring voices from the basement near the old pool area. Sounds like lingering sadness or unrest.
University of Iowa had some dark ones, too. A suicide pact.
Yeah, supposedly 3 girls in Courier Hall and another student who jumped from Slater Hall, plus the baseball team's off-campus house.
The old funeral parlor.
The old funeral parlor. You can't make this stuff up. Perfect setup for haunting.
Seriously. Kansas State seems like it has a ghost for every occasion.
Right. A legless nurse, a TV-loving ghost named George, Polly who messes with lights at Pi Phi, phantom bloodstains at Pi Kappa Phi, a heartbroken football player ghost. It's a whole spectral student body.
And Gettysburg College, obviously, the Civil War connection is huge there.
Absolutely. Penn Hall was a hospital, so you get stories tied to that trauma.
Like the security guard and the weird elevator ride.
Yeah, and strange noises, plus the legend of the Blue Boy in Stevens Hall. The history is so palpable there.
We've covered so many. A piano ghost at UT Austin.
Nike.
Whispers at Boston University.
Charles Gate Hall.
Indiana's Lady in Blue.
Great Hall.
Another Civil War soldier at Alabama.
By the observatory.
And even USC's Cinema School feeling heavy.
Attributed to a film student's spirit. Yeah, these stories are everywhere.
It's incredible how widespread they are. And that College Rover survey you mentioned, the student tales of the supernatural.
Right, it really backs us up with numbers.
What were the most common things students reported?
Top ones were hearing unexplainable noises or footsteps, almost 60%. Then sensing a presence, that was 45%. Sudden temperature changes, about a third.
And seeing actual figures.
Yeah, 30% reported seeing ghostly figures, and nearly a quarter said objects moved on their own.
Wow. Those line up pretty well with the legends we've been talking about.
They really do. It shows a consistency in the types of experiences people report, or at least perceive.
And the impact. You mentioned concentration issues, but what else?
Sleep disturbances were big. Half the students reported that.
Yeah.
Increased anxiety, almost 40%. It definitely suggests these aren't just fun little scares for everyone involved.
No, clearly not. Which brings up the question, Why do these stories stick around so strongly? Why are they such a big part of campus life?
That's a great question. One of the articles touched on a few reasons.
Like they become part of the shared culture.
Exactly. It's something students pass down. Older students tell the newer ones. It builds this kind of informal campus lore.
And sometimes they're even in the official campus tours.
Yeah, actively keeping the stories alive. It helps create a sense of community, a shared secret history almost.
A spooky bond.
Kind of. And sometimes these stories even become part of, academic study, folklore classes, history projects.
And they inspire events too, right? Haunted tours, Halloween stuff.
For sure. Adds a unique flavor to campus life.
But maybe more importantly, a lot of these stories seem tied to real history.
That's a crucial point. Many are rooted in actual events, often tragic ones, fires, accidents, epidemics, historical conflicts like at Gettysburg.
So the ghost story becomes a way of remembering that history.
In a way, yeah. An unsettling reminder, maybe, but a reminder nonetheless. It connects students not just to the present university, but to its past, its dramas, its tragedies.
Gives them a sense of belonging to something bigger, maybe. Stretching back through time.
I think so. It connects past and present, makes the history feel more immediate, more personal, even if it is through a ghost story.
So whether you actually believe in the ghosts themselves or not.
Right, regardless of belief, the stories themselves are significant. They shape the identity of the place, the atmosphere. They become part of the university's fabric.
So wrapping up this deep dive, it's pretty clear these university campuses are, well, more than just classrooms and labs. They're these really interesting intersections of history and mystery.
Definitely. And believer or skeptic, you can't deny these stories are a huge part of the university experience for a lot of people. And often they're echoing real events, real lives, real tragedies from the institution's past.
Yeah, they're not just about scares. They offer this unique way to look at the history and the culture of these places. You learn about events and people that might otherwise be forgotten.
Which leads to a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. Think about how powerful stories are. How do the narratives we share about places, whether they're strictly factual or lean into legend, how do they actually shape how we understand and experience those places?
And what might these particular ghost stories, these really persistent campus legends, tell us about the collective memory, or maybe the anxieties, or even just the enduring spirit of university life itself? Something to think about.